Right, so without further delay, let's get started. So once again, welcome to a webinar, Opportunities for Solar Heat in Malaysia. So today we'll have two speakers who will let us know what's going on in the Malaysian market regarding solar heat, and yeah, so let's start with brief introductions from both of them. So Jürgen, could you please introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. Thanks a lot for the short introduction, Carlos. Yeah, I'm Jürgen Fluch. I'm coming from RA Intec. We are a private research organization coming from Austria. Yeah, we are busy and active in the field of energy efficiency and renewable energy for industry over the last 33 years. And yeah, not taking already some information from our presentation, but we are participating in International Energy Agency activities on solar process heats over the last 15 years. And within this UNIDO project, yeah, we did a lot of work directly in Malaysia, supported by UNIDO. So I'm happy to give you some more insights in my presentation in some minutes.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. Marlene, could you please introduce yourself and get ready to present? Your microphone is on silent.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, now it works. Okay, my name is Marlene. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Yeah, I'm working on the Department of Energy in UNIDO. So we are having this project, or basically managing this project that we're going to introduce now together with Jürgen. Yeah, we're working on different projects in the energy field, and this one in Malaysia is one of them, which I'm going to present to you today. So.
Great, thank you very much. So, well, you could start sharing your screen. Sure. In the meantime, I'd like to remind all of you that you will get the slides and the video recording of this session. So we'll send those to you by email in about a week's time. So Marlene, please, over to you.
You can already see the presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then it's great. Okay, so thanks a lot again for the introduction, and thanks to everyone for joining today and your interest in this topic. Yeah, as I already said, I'll first briefly introduce this project, the setup that we did, the topics that are covered, and the activities. And Jürgen then will jump in and give you some more details. As you can see here, the project is called Malaysia Energy Efficiency and Solar Thermal Project, in short, MAESTA. Before I explain the project setup, I want to, and the content, I want to give you a short overview. This project is funded by the Global Environment Facility. It's the GEF. And UNIDO, where I'm working, is implementing the project, and the UNIDO project manager is Sanjay Shrestha. And yeah, together with the project team in Malaysia, and of course the experts from Intec, we're working on this. Yeah, the executing agency is CERIM, and here also listed the other relevant stakeholders. Yeah, and those are also part of the steering committee meeting, which basically takes the decisions of the project in the country. Yeah, the overall objective, like in most of our energy projects, is to help the government's efforts in reducing GHG emissions in the country. Yeah, and for that, some industrial subsectors were identified, like food and beverage, chemicals, wood products, pulp and paper, and they were selected, and those that actually provide the biggest solar thermal potential. And through the combined efforts of energy efficiency and solar thermal, actually first we do the energy efficiency and then the solar thermal, this GHG emissions should be achieved. And at project design, we intended to focus on the industrial sector, and then at a later stage, it was also extended for hotel and hospitals to its potential, and also some developments in Malaysia. So why this solar thermal heat project for industries? As you can see here, there's a big potential for solar thermal capacity. It's around 4.8 gigawatt. And the estimated solar thermal collector area is around 7 million square meters for industries and hotels and hospitals. And yeah, only very little has been harnessed so far of this potential. And actually this data was gathered or estimated basically for our solar thermal market analysis for Malaysian industries. And this has just been recently finalized and it will also be published soon. And yeah, I think on this data, we can clearly see that Malaysia has huge potential to use the all year round sun to produce the highly needed heat for the industrial processes. And yeah, I think that was the main reason for the design of this project in 2014. This project consists of 3 components. And yeah, here I want to give you the short overview about the components, and later I'm going into more details and give you the update about the components and what happened so far. And here I also want to mention that the whole project setup and all the details about this project you can find online on our UNIDO Open Data platform, and there's the whole project document accessible for anyone. Yeah, and the first component is the policy component with the approach to establish some policy papers and financial incentive schemes to change the current policy landscape towards supporting solar thermal and focusing on industrial heat. The second component is on capacity building and awareness raising. The goal of this component is to raise awareness of energy efficiency on the heat part and solar thermal, and to establish a solar community in Malaysia that can take the knowledge further than also after this project is closed or we finalized. And the third component is designed to show via demonstration projects how the industries can benefit from these interventions, and to have some demonstration projects. So here's now the update about each of the components. As I already mentioned, the solar thermal market analysis for Malaysian industries has just been finalized, and based on this document, we already developed a deployment plan, and in the last phase where in the finalization phase, it was already some deployment activities were already taking off, and they were focusing on 6 key areas that you can see here. It's the financial, policy, regulatory, technology and R&D, testing, certification and standardization, and awareness and capacity building. The other achievements that we can mention under this component is that solar thermal now is included in the new Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act, EECA, and has already been approved by the cabinet and is expected to present it to Parliament soon. The date now is unsure at the moment because right before the COVID pandemic, they had some changes in the government. So I don't know if they stick to the initial time frame. But until now, I mean, that's why it is to highlight, Malaysia did not have any act or regulation or policy on thermal energy because the existing policy framework and support program in Malaysia only focus on electricity power generation and not any thermal application. And additionally, it's worth to mention that our team is also involved in reviewing the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, and yeah, they're also involved in including thermal parts here. Well, under the capacity building component, a specific training program has been designed in order to establish a pool of great experts in the country. And to reach this, we offer first 2 days user training program where we introduce the participants to the basics of energy efficiency and solar thermal, and it's mostly intended for technical stuff. And those then that are interested in the topic and bring the required pre-qualifications and can also allocate enough time to do the training on the job, those then are selected to be part of a more in-depth expert training program, which consists of 3 parts, which you can see here. First is a 4 days course on energy efficiency, In these groups, of course, the technical background is explained, or our thoughts, and then also some groups are formed, all including one host company. So we have a real industry in each of these groups, and they do the energy audit in this industry then. And this they do in this 6 months then. It's intended to be about 6 months. It's this training on the job that it's done then. And once the report is finalized, of course, they get all along the way, they get some help from the national and international experts, and then they present their findings. And these findings will be presented in another course. It's another 4 days training course. And this, from topic-wise, it then focuses on the solar thermal technology. Yeah, and of course, the intention is then that this host company, where everything was developed from the energy audits to the solar thermal design, that they are then going to implement the solar thermal system in their company premises. We also additionally, for another target group, we offer some awareness seminars. Here's we try to target the management of the industries and also hospitals and hotels, and decision makers, to give them some overview about, or to raise awareness about solar thermal in general. And we also work together with many organizations in Malaysia, like for example the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, to reach a bigger audience and to also cover all parts of the country. Like you can see, we also organize awareness trainings in Borneo and all over the country. And yeah, so far we did 23 awareness seminars with about 900 participants. Here, if you want to see more numbers, what we were doing so far on the training programs. So far on the expert training, we had 4 batches, and we were actually just intended to have the second part, the solar thermal part of one expert training program exactly this week, but of course we had to postpone it. We also, as you can see, we also offered extended trainings. We had also some webinars just to support the solar community best. And to date, we have 19 certified UNIDO experts in Malaysia. And certified UNIDO expert means those fulfilled all requirements from the expert training and also passed the final exam. So we can say they're really, really good in this topic. And what we are also trying to engage them in further trainings. We have a train-the-trainer approach so that they can also take the trainings further. And you can see there's quite a big number of participants. And what we also we're really trying to get more supplier on board. So we also had some special sessions for them, and also to show the industry, which is actually huge, and but also the our studies show that also the energy consultants see the business potential and jump onto this, because that's really important to push the market further, that as many people are engaged as possible. So on the third component, this is the demonstration component, and which is focusing actually on the real implementations. And in order to achieve, we have a targeted number of companies that we want to have, that they should have some demonstrations. We try to help and support them on all levels that are required for purchasing of solar thermal equipment. We help them on the feasibility studies first, on the conceptual design, and then usually the company starts their own procurement tendering processes. They get the detailed design from the suppliers, but we also guide them all the way, so they get all the support. And we also help them then once everything is installed, in the monitoring and verification. To date, we have 3 demonstration projects that are installed and operating with help of the project. We have to highlight, because there's also some others already in Malaysia, especially on some hospitals and that. But those 3 that were supported by the project. And it's actually 2 food industries and 1 hotel. And yeah, they installed evacuated tube or flat plate collectors, and the total size is about 600 square meters. For the energy efficiency part, we have 8 demonstration projects so far. It's mostly boiler optimization, but also process heat recovery, economizers, and process optimization. And yeah, on this part, I really have to say that we had some challenges in the beginning with both interventions that we are planning on these components due to the very low energy price in Malaysia compared to other countries. And also the policy landscape, as already told you before. And this resulted at first in less industries, from less interest from the industries. But despite the challenges, we are now working, or all the time already working on all those parts to sustain the project activities. And from my perspective, in the last year, or last half year, there was a huge development in terms of companies that are willing to invest in solar thermal. So I think, yeah, it was really step forward. We have now around 10 projects in the pipeline that are willing to invest and want to install it. And of course, this is for sure building from the efforts from our team in Malaysia to spreading awareness, from the trainings from the international experts to introduce the technology in Malaysia, and also the policy efforts to include it in the policies of the government. So yeah, I'm now at this point very positive. Unfortunately, the horrible COVID pandemic is now happening, so we had to stop some of the activities, but we'll do our best, and I'm sure we'll get back on track when all this is over and we can operate normally again. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention, and I'll pass on to Jürgen now, and he will explain you some things in more detail.
Thank you, Marlene, very much for your thank you very much for your presentation. So if you could start sharing your screen, so Jürgen can start sharing his. And I'd just like to remind the audience that first of all, we are recording this, and you'll get the recording in about a week's time, and also that you can send questions in. So go to the Q&A box and send any questions that you have. Right, so I think Jürgen, if you are, I can see the presentation, but it's not in full screen. So if you can change to full screen, that would be great. And then that's it, you can start presenting.
Now it's better? You see the...
Yeah, now I can see it in full screen mode.
Perfect. Okay, so I think you already heard some information about the project development and the progress, and a lot of details about what we have already achieved. And I want to give you some further insights how we came to this point when UNIDO now is saying that the whole project has been now a success, and we are pretty sure and very positive for the upcoming years that solar process heat will be really boosted in Malaysia. So the starting message, and this was also the main reason why we together with UNIDO initiated this project in 2012. This was the first idea, that solar heat for industrial processes has a huge potential in Malaysia. So why? Just having in mind that I pick out Austria, as we are coming from Austria. I think we have a lot of implementations on solar process heat in households, but also especially in the industry. And just having in mind that our solar radiation that we have here in Central Europe, we're about 1,100 kilowatt hours per square meter and year. And now if we look at this map for Malaysia that we have here in this part, we have an average solar radiation there above 1,600 kilowatt hours per square meter and year. So the technical framework, what's the energy, what is delivered by the sun is much higher than we have in Europe, and say, so it's totally clear that the potential for solar process heat is really huge there. So this was the starting point. And when we had a closer look at the structure of the industry in Malaysia, if you're not familiar with this country, maybe it's a bit surprising for you, but looking at the number of the companies that we have there, comparably to Austria and Europe that we have there, a lot of companies working in the food and beverage industry. We have a very strong sector in the chemical and pharmaceutical part, machinery, iron and steel, pulp and paper, and what is really, really important, Malaysia is one of the world market leaders in the production of rubber gloves. Yeah, so having in mind how rubber gloves are produced perfectly fits to what solar process heat can deliver. Further looking at the energy demand that we have in these sectors, so you can have a lot of companies working in the food and beverage industry, but if they are just very, very small companies, the potential is not that high. But this chart shows us that also the energy demand in these sectors are really, really high. And also the distribution between these different sectors is really comparably to what we have here in Europe, and especially also in Austria. So for us, it was really clear that the potential for solar process heat in Malaysia is really high. And Malenia already has showed you this outcome, and there was already one question in the chat. So how did we come to these figures? So we had a closer look at the industry in Malaysia, identified based on this framework of solar process heat, that real technical and also financial viable and feasible potential for solar process heat. And by this, we came up to this 4,000 or almost 5,000 megawatt thermal that we have in Malaysia to be supplied by solar thermal there. In detail, this means out of this roadmap that is going to be deployed soon, we have in total a solar thermal capacity of almost 1,000 megawatts to be supplied with more than 1,300,000 square meters. So this means a huge investment. This means a huge savings of CO2, and this means a lot of green jobs that we create there. And with these figures, you can go then to the government, to the policymakers, and you cannot do all these investment only with funding, but you have to create these framework conditions. So what is the field where investment can be done? And these are, from my point of view, and I think also from UNIDO's point of view, really convincing figures. And so this is exactly what we are going to deploy with this roadmap very soon. Okay, these are the figures, but how to achieve it without the solar community? I think for those who are interested in solar process heat, and you are, as you're attending this training course, well, if you're talking about solar with the industry and also policymakers, the first answer or question that you get to what you're presenting there, okay, what is the electricity that I can get out of it? So this is a big misunderstanding that we have. Solar process heat is supplying heat and not electricity. So you have to come up with a clear training setup, how to bring this knowledge to the community there. Malenia already said it, I will hop over it quite quickly. We had one-day awareness training events inviting policymakers and the top management of the industry, followed by two-day basic trainings where we gave more insights to what solar process heat can do. And very important for us is always to include also this EE part, energy efficiency. This has to go hand in hand and not seen as competitors. So we have to combine it in the best way. And by this, the industry has the highest benefit of what we are doing. Then we have this big setup of the training, 4-day training on energy efficiency, 4-day training on solar process heat. In the middle, we have this training on the job. So how did we create and set up this training? Well, very important for us is always to have one host company committed to one group of these trainees. So for us, we had now already 4 batches of these trainings. Per batch, we had between 12 and 25 host companies who committed clearly that they are interested in solar process heat. And what was very important for us always that we created here a trainee group, and one person of this trainee group is always one employee of the host company. Yeah? So this ensures that the trainees can go to the company, doing and performing the energy audit, identifying the potential for solar process heat, and acquiring all the information and data that is necessary to come up with a very thorough and good and reliable concept for solar process heat. This is, of course, supported by our local experts, the project management unit. UNIDO did a great job to create here a group in Malaysia, and I think they are now already real experts there. And of course, our role was to support this whole procedure. On one hand, to do the trainings, perform the trainings, provide the training material. And we are very active in the discussion with all these training groups that we had already in the past. And I mentioned already the host companies, just some logos that we have from the industry there. So if you look at these logos and do a double check in what is going on in Malaysia, these are the leading companies, the big ones. So we have Nestlé, we have the big steel companies, we have the big food and beverage industries, we have the glove industry, the rubber industry on board. So they are really interested in what we are doing because they expect some significant savings that we are going to deliver. What we identified in the whole procedure, and I think this is a clear output of the tasks of the solar heating and cooling part of the International Energy Agency, you have to provide information and you have to provide appropriate and tailor-made tools for these consultants. Very important is these shall not be very detailed simulation tools as the solar suppliers are using or the scientific community is using. We need some tools that are easy to be used. They are Excel-based. They link the energy efficiency to the solar process heat. And these are tools that are used from the very beginning of the training till the end when the final concepts are going to present to the industry. So we focused a lot of our work on these tools. Quick design, I will give you some insights, some screenshots. So how to design the solar system. Solar, compared to, or in contrary to households, it's not just placing a collector on the roof or somewhere on the ground. It's more. You need some storages, you need heat exchangers, you need a good strategy how to implement it. So this has to be and is now part of our tool that we developed there. And this shall be a basis for detailed system simulation. We call it pre-design. Technical and economic feasibility, it's just some tools, some output that we get of this tool with which we can go to the top management and convince them at least to be interested in a further and more detailed simulation, and then maybe start the tendering phase. And what is very important for us also is that we also use this tool to double check the concepts that are developed by our experts now there. But we are not just a closed community there. We invite completely open all consultants, solar suppliers who are interested in doing something like this in Malaysia. And when they are requesting some funding from UNIDO, we do a double check of these developed concepts with our tool. Well, the key sections: profile, collector definition, climate definition, component sizing, simulation, and very important at the end to come up with clear techno-economic comparisons. So not just saying this makes sense in terms of technical parameters, but that it's really worth for the industry to go for this investment. Some screenshots, standardized load profiles. So we can compare easily different concepts to each other. We can easily compare different concepts from different companies also to each other. So this gives us a very good basis for this standardized assessment, different possibilities to implement different collectors. So we are completely open. Everybody is allowed to use this tool to put in these specific data for the collectors. Then we do a selection of the collectors within this tool, easy to be used, a lot of standardized automation in the background simulation. So it's not necessary to have a clear insight to the code that we have in the background, but really just to use it and get a clear recommendation how to do it. Also, the data is very important. What is the solar radiation? What is the temperature? What is the wind that we are facing? What is the shading? And also here, we decided not to implement maybe some databases you have to pay for, but the European Commission provides here a worldwide database where you can easily click on a point somewhere in the world and you get information about the solar radiation that you have there. And you can click on it online, you can import it to our tool, and this is then automatically done for the design of the whole system. I already mentioned it's not only about the collector, it's about stagnation that you have to think about, some heat losses, the storage, some heat exchangers, the integration point. And all these calculations are automatically done. It's clearly reported how we are doing this calculation, and by this we want to achieve a kind of a standardization for in decision makers for the investments in the industry, but maybe then also for some external investors. That is very important. Some simulations, screenshots, how this looks like. So you see when your storage is loaded, when the storage is unloaded, when you have to supply some backup system or thermal heat to the processes. So this gives you a clearer idea about a yearly simulation, what is going on in your system, what can be optimized. And with this, we are finally then assessing these concepts. Marlene has already told you we have achieved some implementations. So all in all, we are not talking only about the solar thermal process heat, we are also talking about the energy efficiency. Within these training courses, we identified 95 single measures, spoiler efficiency, some insulation parts that are not reported in the big projects. Marlene mentioned these 8 energy efficiency measures that are reported there, but doing a insulation on a pipe, this is these low-hanging fruits we are expecting from the industry, but these helped the industry. The investment procedure is clear. This is an offer right now within this project that UNIDO says, okay, we are going to support some investments up to 30%. This is just to push the front runners, to give them this cherry on the cake, to be the first ones to take the risk, because although we from Europe say this is state of the art and no technical risk is linked to solar process heat, if you're the first one in a country, you have to overcome this barrier. And with this UNIDO funding, we identified now it's the perfect time to go for it. And also our tool is used for this standardized assessment. If somebody is asking for money from the task force, where all these stakeholders are involved, then they can clearly rely on this methodology, and then it's easier to decide whether we think it's a well-done project or not a well-done project. Focus industry, hospital, hotels, 3 already finished, 4 implementations are pending. Also a bit unfortunately affected by the corona pandemic, but we are quite optimistic that in autumn we are going to do the next step that we, honestly speaking, right now, some industry has already ordered some collectors from China and they were just postponed, but we hope that this will be solved in the near future. And beside what we have achieved already in the implementation phase, so in the tender phase, we have 7 other projects. We have in the decision phase, where the concept is already presented to the top management, 14 projects. We have in the concept phase, out of our training, 26 projects. In the technical support from us and the BMU, 5 other projects. So not assuming that all of them are going to be implemented, but at least when we achieve a 20% share of these pipeline, I think this will be a huge potential, a huge success of this project. And thanks to UNIDO, I think by this we have created this community in Malaysia. Monitoring also very important. Right now we are in detailed discussion with 2 companies. So I will present you one, the PPNJ, but also another company that has now implemented solar processing to optimize the system, the performance, that they are really happy in what we did there. PPNJ, this was our front runner there. Poultry and meat company, they installed the solar process heat already almost 3 years ago. Not a very big one, I'm completely clear, 120 square meters, small storage, but if you look at the ROI, 3.2 years, very good economic parameters, I would say. The good situation is that the substituted supply system was electricity, what is much more expensive than natural gas, for example, but nevertheless, it was awarded with the Asian Energy Award in the thermal category, so a huge success. It was in the news, it was on television, and this is something with which you can convince the governments to do the next step, to create this framework with which we are pretty optimistic to go for the next implementations in the country. I already mentioned it, the total investment, that the potential that we have, what is an output of the roadmap, this cannot be done with funding. And my personal point of view is also that funding is necessary to create these front runners, but finally the market has to push these investments. So we have to create here also kind of investment schemes, and what we presented also there, this is a Horizon project that has just been finished. It's called Trustee. It's about how to reduce the risk for the investors and also for the industry finally. So we presented also this approach to the financing sector in Malaysia and to the banks there, and also already to the government. And there will be some financial workshops in the upcoming months where we try at least to show them some possibilities how to overcome these barriers and reservations from the industry and the investors. And one possibility is a kind of a standardized project assessment. So you have all these stakeholders on board. You have the industry, you have the suppliers. It shall not be only the Chinese one. We really invite European suppliers to be part of this. Totally clear that 120 square meters are not that interesting, but we have some concepts on the table looking for 2,000 square meters. So I think this could be a kind of a barrier where then also European suppliers might be interested, and then we take the investors on board. So this is an approach standardized on a platform. You have to provide some information then in the background. We have biogas, biomass, and also energy efficiency, but for solar thermal, then in the background, some detailed simulations are performed and compared to what this proposer of this project is expecting. And by this, we can say this is a bankable project, and they get our stamp on it. And this is one possibility with which we think the government, the policymakers, the decision makers have to be supported in order to not having to be an expert in all these small details, but just to get a feeling if a project is well done and a revenue can be expected finally out of it. Outlook, Malaysia, now we have to overcome this phase. I'm quite optimistic that this can be done. What will be done in the upcoming months, this roadmap will be deployed. As Malene already said, we plan to do it right now in this week. Both of us, we would have been in Malaysia right now, but now we are sitting in our home office here in Austria. But looking forward going to Malaysia to present it there, to convince the decision makers, to convince the policies and the government. Very important is to have certified experts. I think this is the same worldwide. We just have to ensure that the ones who are going to develop these concepts presented to the management of the industry, but also, and this is I think the key, to be presented to the investors, they have to be somehow certified. And what is a big success of this UNIDO project is that the government accepted this certification procedure. And they say if they have done this training, if they have passed the exam, they are allowed to get the certificate and they are allowed to design these concepts here. Front runners, we have to do this till the end of this project to ensure that we are not going out of Malaysia at the end of this UNIDO project, but at this moment we have established the solar community with which we are pretty sure that in the upcoming 5 years we are able to achieve these results. And trustee could be one possibility to go for it. And I said it in the beginning, solar heat for industrial processes has a huge potential, but not only in Malaysia. I would say it has a potential worldwide. We just have to harvest the results that are already there. So I'm pretty happy to push the solar process heat community worldwide. At the end, if you're interested to hear more about it, Intec, we're organizing a 2-year conference. Fingers crossed that we are allowed to do it over this year in Graz again. So if you're willing and happy to visit us in Graz, I'm happy to welcome you also to our conference taking place from the 14th to the 16th of October. So I close my presentation, and I think I give the rights back to you, Carlos.
Thank you very much, Jürgen, for your presentation. Very, very interesting. And now, well, we have a number of questions from the audience. So let's get to answering them. So I think one of them actually is, I think is very interesting. It goes to like the heart of this whole thing, which is one of the energy prices like in Malaysia. So and how do they compare with the solar heat options? I've seen a project there that has a 3.2 payback period, which is probably one of the best I've ever seen, actually. So that's interesting. But you know, in terms of the energy prices, so what are energy prices like in Malaysia and are they subsidized? There's another important question.
Yeah, so 3 to 2 years is good, but not the best I have ever seen. So there are better ones. The energy costs in Malaysia yeah, are complete comparably to what we have here in Europe. So more or less they are paying, depending on the size, between 25 up to 45, 50 euros per megawatt hour coming from the natural gas. And the electricity is also more or less the same. We are in the range of 100 up to 130 euros per megawatt hour. So I think the framework conditions for solar process heat are perfect. Yeah, and a lot of industry or the energy systems in the industry are based on electricity. And if you have this, this works really, really well for solar process heat, having in mind that solar process heat, you pay for it, and after 3 to 2 years in our example, then you get this energy for free and you're not depending on any changes in the energy costs. This is a message that we have to bring to the industry, that we have to bring to the policymakers also. But for sure, right now for the funding, what you also mentioned, I think this was your last question, for solar process heat right now, we have no funding yet, beside the UNIDO one, but there is none from the government right now. This is exactly the reason why we work together with UNIDO, or UNIDO worked on it, a bit supported by us on the roadmap for Malaysia, because with this we want to show them, look, this is the investment potential, these are the CO2 savings, these are more than 6,000 jobs we are going to create here. It's worth to create at least a small funding scheme for the beginning, and by this you will achieve your climate targets that you have. And Malaysia was one of the first countries worldwide committed to the Paris commitment. Yeah, so I think the framework is quite good, and I'm quite optimistic that we can achieve this. Yeah.
Marlene, is there anything you'd like to add to this answer?
Yeah, I mean, from Jürgen is absolutely right on what's there. There's no specific funding from any government agency on specifically solar thermal. I mean, what they can do is they have some tax exemptions for renewable energy projects in general, which one of our companies is applying to, but it's quite marginal, so it's not giving the best payback period. I mean, it's not helping too much. But yeah, that's what our goal is, to really push this further. There's more to add.
Right. So I think, you know, my question was, I think it's my fault for asking a question that was actually like 4 or 5 questions in one. But I think one of my questions was whether fossil fuel energy, so things like gas or diesel, are subsidized in Malaysia.
They're subsidized, yes.
They are subsidized, and is that an obstacle? Because I've seen I don't know anything about the Malaysian market particularly, but I've seen in other markets that's one of the main obstacles to renewable energy in general.
Yeah, I mean, Jürgen was very optimistic and he's saying it's not an obstacle at all, but I would disagree a bit, because I think that's definitely a challenge. I mean, worldwide, I think that fossil fuel price is a challenge, but I think also in Malaysia.
Right, okay. And, you know, have you actually identified you mentioned fossil fuel prices as one of the challenges. What are the other challenges you've seen to the implementation of solar process heat projects in Malaysia?
Yeah, more or less it's completely the same as what the challenges that we identify also, and we are facing here in Europe, what we are facing in South America, maybe more important in North America. The first thing is that people just don't know what solar process heat means. I mentioned it in my presentation. First question is always, okay, what is the electricity I get out of it? Yeah?
Right.
The second thing is that you have to convince an industry that solar process heat, on the one hand, they are not the first ones being worldwide to implement it. What is a direct output of the Task 49 is an online database, free accessible for everybody, where we collect this information of already implemented solar process heat projects worldwide. By this, you can just go there, click on a subsector, and show, look, you're not the first one worldwide. Yeah, maybe you're the first one in Malaysia, yeah, but it's already state of the art. Then the second thing is what we as the solar community have to learn right now, and I want to mention the task 64 of the International Agency. There we have one dedicated subtask guideline to market. We have to, we are sometimes a bit too complicated when we are explaining solar processes. So we have in mind, it's the collector, it's the storage, you have two heat exchangers, you have to be careful about the integration points. I would be the top management of an industry, and there's on one hand a supplier of a heat pump or a supplier of a gas boiler, and it's just one module. And on the other side, there are several components of the solar process heat. Then, yeah, for sure I will go for the easy one. But why not selling it that it's a module, it's a package, you get it, and what you get out of it is energy. So we have to overcome these barriers that we are definitely facing. Yeah. And what is missing, or definitely was missing in Malaysia, are experts who know how to do this, to create this market. So if we went there for the first time in Malaysia, there were some PV, but no solar components there. Yeah? So you have to, on the one hand, create this awareness. You have to bring this knowledge to the experts, ensure that the community is working, that not we are just coming from somewhere in the world and telling them what to do. Right now, we have a big community interested in this. More than 1,000 people attended our training. The awareness is there. And now the interest is also there. And now the final step is to bring in the investors. Yeah? Investors seeing it as a business case, they give the money into these projects, they get it back within 3 up to 8 years. They earn a lot of money with it. And if we do this, then I'm pretty optimistic worldwide. This is not a specific challenge in Malaysia, it's a worldwide challenge.
Thank you, Jürgen. Marlene, anything to add to this answer?
Yeah, and also to even go, I mean, a big step back. I mean, even to convince companies at all how important it is to go green and to have some renewable energy integrated in their processes at all. I mean, now it has been compared between PV, of course, then that's common knowledge, but we also really had to start and creating also this awareness how important, and also how industries can also benefit themselves from really integrating it in their production processes. Also now it's coming up more and more with some companies requesting it from their suppliers and on the supply chain. So there's more pressure on it, but yeah, I think that's also an important task to do, to convince on that part.
Thank you. So let's go to the next question, which is whether you have looked into integrating the solar thermal solutions into the off-takers' existing heat systems. So for industrial processes. The question says also, to what extent can these costs be avoided or minimized if temperatures delivered by the solar panels match the highest temperature?
Sure, we looked at it. Generally, for solar process heat, you always we say you have two possibilities. Either you can implement it on the process level, so you link your solar system only to one process, or you can link it to the existing supply system. Both of them has advantages and disadvantages in terms of efficiency, in terms of costs, in terms of complexity. But a solar system will, in most cases, not supply the whole energy demand. Yeah, this is just due to the fact that we don't have solar energy during the night. The storage sizes are limited. Then we have some variations. So the best case is always that you link your integration to an existing system. Of course, there might be some negative impacts if then the load profiles or the load is not operating at full load anymore. But this has to be an optimized system influencing each other, and by this achieving a maximum share of renewable energy. But this is due to the fact that solar process heat cannot supply 100% in most cases, is a bit limited. So you have to identify this best case. And this is exactly a core topic of our training, that the trainees will learn how to do it, identify the best implementation concept, assess and compare them, and by this deliver the best solution for the industry finally.
Okay, interesting. There is a question here. I think a few people have asked whether about resources that are available from your study. So is the simulation tool that you use, is it available, freely available, or is it a proprietary technology?
The tool itself, we use it in our training. So everybody who attends our training gets the tool for free. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's not something that we provide to everybody because yeah, it's a methodology that we're using in the training, and that this will be completely free in Malaysia from now on. This is clear.
Right. Okay. And you know, going back to like more like the market side. So one of the things that I think both of you have mentioned is that there is a need for investors to get involved and see the business case. So what do you think is needed for investors to get more involved in this sector in Malaysia?
Yeah, I think to supply easy, understandable concepts. And I think coming from the scientific or the technical part, we have to learn the language of investors. Investors are not interested if there are 1,000 or 1,200 square meters installed. They are not interested how big the storage is. They're interested in the total costs, what the financial or economic parameters they look at, and somehow they have to trust your concept. And you have to deliver clear solutions how to deal with risk. Several trustees mentioned this Horizon project. This is one possibility, but we need some, if possible, some guarantees from the government also. I think this is something we are discussing with the government in Malaysia right now. And if the whole setup is then fine, then the investors are willing to do it, because a lot of funds and trusts, they're looking for these renewable projects because they want to see it in their portfolio. So in the building sector, I think we're already on a very good track. We have different stamps, let's call it like this, where somebody says this is a certified project. We have to do the same for the industry. This has to be something worldwide. From the collector side, we have all these solar key marks, for example, what is a standardized certificate. And for the whole setup of the system, we have to deliver the same. Yeah. And then I think it's the money is there. Let's be honest. A lot of money is there, and the investors want to earn money. And I think the solar concepts, our projects, they are part of this portfolio. And yeah, this is just, we have to be easier to understand to the investors, I think, then they are interested.
Right.
Yeah, that's also what we are working with this project. Actually, one part is also that we are working with this certification and standardization body in Malaysia. So we're just working on getting them on board to really, yeah, make a certified product, so that's also easy to read for investors and that they know what they're investing in.
Okay. And you know, I think something that's linked to this topic of getting investors involved are business models. So in other parts of the renewable energy industry, if you look at PV, there have been people who sign PPAs, for example, that sell electricity is almost like pay as you go. So the off-taker doesn't have to buy the entire system in one go. Have you seen anything like this in solar heat? Has it been looked into? Do you have an idea of what the preferences are of industries? Do they prefer to own the system and operate it, or would they prefer to buy heat as a service and outsource maintenance and this all of the maintenance associated with a solar heat system?
Yeah. In the solar thermal market, the energy performance contracting is state of the art. There are several projects worldwide doing exactly this. The industry, for them, it's the best case. Yeah? They don't have to invest hundred thousands of euros in such a collector, and then they have a payback in 7 or 8 years. So if they just pay for the energy, this is the best case. What we identified, and here again a link to the trustee project, we had detailed discussion with the solar suppliers, with the industry and the investors. So a bit the challenge when you have this energy performance contracting is compared to PV. If you have a PV there, I think the electricity consumption will not be significantly influenced by internal optimization measures in the industry, yeah? Or you even have the possibility to feed into the grid. The solar system is of course influenced. So if you design your system as it is, and 2 years later you have a different capacity, or maybe you optimize something with a heat exchanger, this might influence the performance of your solar system. So what we identified in our discussion is that you can do it, that the industry, and this is definitely preferred by the industry, not to pay for it at the very beginning and then take all the risks and have to take care about the performance, but to pay on yearly basis. This can be linked to the performance, but they even prefer to say, okay, no, we have this investment, we divide it to 7 or 8 years, and then we pay a fixed price for it. Then it's easier even for the balance sheet, and it's easier for the supplier, and it's easier for the investor. Nobody has to take care about doing some measurements, coming up with these baseline scenarios, discussion if there is any change in your production. So this would be one possibility, what I see as a clear message out of it.
Yeah, and actually one of our, two are really from the 3 that are installed now, 2 were financed by the industries themselves, and 1 is an EPC model. We see it especially in the hospitals that they are preferring this model.
Right. Okay. And one question a couple of people have asked whether they can get information on the training sessions that you will be delivering in Malaysia. I don't know whether those are open to everyone or just to selected people, but if there is anywhere where they could find information, it'd be good if you could share that on the link, which is on the, you could share the link on the chat box.
Of course, we have a website, and everyone in Malaysia can register for the trainings, and we will do for the user training. We can, everybody can just participate when we're offering it, and then for the expert training, we do some short interviews, and then we're selecting everyone.
So that's the Malaysia Energy Efficiency Solar Thermal Application website, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna paste this in the link. Well, Zoom has done.
Yeah, I think it's some old information also on the website, but the contact details from our team is there. So if they get in touch with someone from our team.
Great. So well, I've pasted the link now on the chat box.
Great.
So well, it's there now. Right, so well, we are coming to the end of the webinar. So, I'd like to thank all of everyone in the audience, and of course our speakers for, to both of you for being here today. Do you have any parting words for our audience today?
Malene?
Yeah, thanks a lot for your interest, and I think it's a very important topic, and I'm happy to see more projects developed all over the world. And
the same also here. Thanks a lot for organizing it, Carlos, and creating this interest. And I saw also some questions. San Optimo, for example, is interested in some projects. So just get in touch with Malene, with me, with the project team in Malaysia. Having suppliers, having investors being interested there, very much appreciated. And definitely you will be invited also to the tendering phase. The business case is there. We can earn a lot of money bringing all these experts to Malaysia, and it's a benefit and a win-win situation for everybody. Solar process heat is part of the decarbonization of industry, and let's just do what we have to do.
Great, thank you very much. So, well, that's it. We've come to the end of the webinar. I'd like to remind you that you will get the presentation slides, so you can post your questions. I think on your presentations, you can find both Marlene's and Jürgen's contact details, and you could ask questions directly. I've also posted the link to the program on the chat box, so you could find them there. And thank you very much for being here, and hopefully I'll be seeing you in other webinars we organize. We'll have plenty for you on our website, atainsights.com. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.